Alrighty, y'all, welcome back to the Techness Corner. I'm just essentially doing a start and maybe a conclusionary finish to this long ass video, which I will endeavor to be doing right now, but may not see the light of day. So I apologize if you are seeing it and I've subjected you to this shit. Sometimes I may have realized that it would be worthwhile posting some of this information out there and some of the to's and fro's in relation to the points that come to my mind that may be better spoken and articulated to others, where otherwise they would go into deafened ear and never be heard of ever again. And as we move forward regarding the technology in relation to the Optiplex Dell 960 SFF small form factor that we're looking into today, we've just got this and we're going to be doing some upgrades. And yeah, I'm going to take you guys on a ride, explain the upgrades that I'm doing. Basically, I'm more interested in doing this work myself and seeing whether it will run the CPU I want to upgrade it to, the RAM I want to upgrade it to, and maybe upgrade some Wi-Fi capabilities, chuck on some Bluetooth capabilities, and see whether this small form factor computer from yester-year has got any more guts in it just for general everyday browsing capabilities. So let's go. So welcome back. I'm not too sure. We're sort of going back and forward in this video. So this may be the end or it may be the beginning in relation to what you are seeing, but ultimately we got an Optiplex 960 machine over here. It's a Dell. It's about from the year 2008, okay? And we got an eMachine from around the year 2011 with, surprisingly, I had a spare eMachine monitor lying about, so I thought that fitting to bring it out. But that eMachine is running a, I believe, dual core 2.8 gigahertz AMD Athlon 64 processor with an NVIDIA chipset, I believe, on the south side of the board in relation to what sort of video output it has. It has no dedicated video card inside. It has, it runs off DDR3 memory and it's only got 4 gigabytes. And essentially that came in to be fixed because it was running really slow and sluggish. Running Windows 7, unfortunately, we can't really recover Windows 7. The drive itself is rather manky in relation to things. I'm not going to open that up specific, but what I've established is for the gentleman, we will be essentially doing the switcheroony and I'll be taking the eMachine. He'll be getting the Optiplex 960 Dell machine, which was running a Core 2 Duo. But if we get a little bit closer in, she is live, so I'm trying to be careful with her because I keep pressing the button on essentially. But if we lift that up and if we change the camera angles around a little bit, we might get a better result into relation of me explaining what is going on the inside or what we've already done. Okay, so being specific in relation to what we've done, the CPU is found in this section here, and we've essentially already taken out what was a 7200 RPM. So this gentleman's getting this at the cost of just the one part. He gets the system, okay? And this was running a E6400 chip, I believe, or something. We've changed the CPU over. So in relation to changing the CPU, it was a matter of lifting this part out, okay? And this housed the HDD. It's got an SSD under there now. And then it was a matter of taking this out and we changed the CPU, which was a Core 2 Duo, to a Q8400. I had an 8200 and 8400. And that's a quad chip at 2.6 gigahertz base clock on all cores. They're a great little chip. If you've got a BIOS that can have a unlocked multiplier on them, you can clock them up considerably, and you can play with the RAM clock speeds and up it as well in relation to the core clock ratio but not with this motherboard. So hopefully it's not going to be base clocking off 2.6 gigahertz, but if it is, it's still 4 cores. And it's got 6 gigabytes of memory as opposed to the eMachine, which has only 4. That's the best I can do for both machines currently in relation to the configuration of the memory modules and DIMMs available. But the difference is this is DDR2, that's DDR3, but 6 gigabytes for what will be running Windows 10 will be a better option instead of 4 gigabytes, I find, even though at the slower pace. We're going to do some testing. We're going to see how this SSD upgrade responds with the CPU upgrade, and essentially, see whether this is worth it. Then I'm going to flip the SSD, put it in that machine, re-spark it with the RAM and put the old original RAM back in there, and just spark it up and run the same test and make sure definitively that at the very least, it feels snappy enough for my liking to be just a user-friendly web browsing and surfing device. Just confirm that I'm not shortchanging this gentleman, because either way he's going to get the SSD in one of the machines. And so from here, why don't we bounce to taking out the CPU per se and replacing that. I apologize again about the haphazard approach to this video, but I thought I might as well document this stuff. Optiplex 960, guys. This is an EL1358 eMachine, and they're over 10 years of age now. So something worthwhile documenting nowadays, that it still can be quite, it's function over form. And these are little SFF machines, small form factor machines, and they do well. The newer things are much more beefier and robust in relation to how many Chrome tabs you can have open. But if you're not crazy or multitasking gods, then they do still pretty well for people. So bounce to that footage and we'll come back and we'll do some testing in relation to it on this monitor rather quickly for me, but for you guys maybe another 5 minutes or so. And welcome to the Techness Corner. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate all the subs, guys. It helps put a warm and fuzzy feeling in my stomach that I'm not used to, and it continues to drive me forward for use. So let's go. So from my understanding, there's a couple of fans which are connected, which are really difficult to get off. You sort of have to jimmy them off. If we have some better lighting, we'll see if we can have a closer look in here, guys. So the fan connection points are here and here. And essentially, I don't think it's going to be too difficult. In fact, I might try to play it by ear and use one tool that I shouldn't be using in relation to just pulling it like that and slotting it off. Nah, that didn't work. Oh, I see. So you have to pull it in this way. Oh, that wasn't as bad as first thought. I went the opposite way, which almost fucking yanked it out of its socket real bad. A lot of interesting dust on this, guys, which I'm a little worried about because it hasn't seen the light of day. Like, it's not that good dust, you know what I mean? It's like rancidy dust, meaning itself. There we go. Oh, that reminds me, what are we going to use in the, regardless if we can get in, because I wanted to repaste the CPU either way with some thermal paste. But what do we got here? So if we have a look in here, the old CPU box, do we have anything that might jump out? i5 3rd gen, no, that's not going to work. What's this? I need to take my spectacles off, ironically. i5 2nd gen, no, that's not going to work. Well, we got something here, hang on a minute. In the paper tissue, is it static free? I don't know about that. We got a Q8200, that may work, quad core, Q8200 quad core, and we got a Q8400 Intel quad core, so we get a bit more information on those. But I think that's going to win the rest probably just Core 2 Duos, frankly. So I won't bother there from memory. I need to cherry pick those and see if we can get any up to single highest frequencies. But I need a decent 775 motherboard for it. Almost got my hands on one in recent, but that just went haywire, because it's either people want $100 for it because they know you want it, or they're throwing them out in the rubbish, you know what I mean? And it's a waste. So we got the Q8200 and Q8400, both quad cores. We're going to have a closer look at the information. into Mr. X's clean visuals. Take a minute. Look, I don't have. Would you like to participate? Not at the moment. Maybe later on, guys. Don't force this down my throat like instantaneously. Jeez Louise. Okay, so we've got the Q8200, 4 megabytes of cache, 233 gigahertz, 1333 megahertz FSB, front side bus, otherwise known as. And launch date Q3 2008, 45 nanometer. Was 179 US and or not at the moment, 179 for Q2 2009. A year later was the Q8400 launched, and that's 266 gigahertz, 1333, 4 megabyte cache. So 2.66 gigahertz on the base frequency, as opposed to the Q8200 at 2.33 gigahertz, 95 watts, as opposed to how much? 95 watts. Vid voltage range, just I'm not going to be able to play with it. So LGA 775, so that's really not going to help me much. 456 million processing die transistors, as opposed to, no, it's roughly the same. 456 million as well. Hyperthreading, no. Boost turbo technology, no. And that's the same on both chips. Virtualization is available, 64-bit, yes. Instruction set 64-bit on both, I believe. Intel SpeedStep technology, yes, on the 8200, yes, on the 8400. So essentially, the cool thing about these 8400s and 8200s is if I have something that can unlock the chip itself, like a multiplier and or a decent motherboard, you can overclock these. Unfortunately, on this Dell motherboard, I believe we will not be able to. And regarding memory specific, it's in relation to what's available on the motherboard, and total cores, it's 4. So we're going from a Core 2 Duo with 2 cores to 4 cores. Okay, so that's something to consider. We'll double check what chips under there in relation to the base clock, but we're going to straight up put in the Q8400 with the base clock that's slightly higher, 2.66 gigahertz. Hopefully that can spruce up a little bit higher as well in relation to what it's capable of. Yeah, otherwise the base clock really doesn't mean shit when we're trying to get it to hit a higher frequency. So let's get back to what we're doing here. Before we unveil the chip specific, let's get into what is now the LGA 775 socket. From memory, a couple of screws here and a couple of screws here that we've got to delve into. And then we've got, and that'll take off the fan part. I was going to try to do it evenly as well, but realistically, we're going to apply the film base after the fact. But I'm curious as to what sort of application was applied to it anyway. For years, was it cooking in its own stew? Oakley dokley. That should enable us to get in and do the lifting. We've already disconnected the 2 fans. Oi. So here you guys can see what's going on in relation to 2 Foxconn fans. That's pretty cool. High jet powered airflow. Oh, it's a bit ganky. I think we're going to need to give this a bit of a spruce up, honestly. This heatsink has seen better days. Ouch. Yankees. Yeah. So, like, you can see how ganky it is here. If you guys can have a look. Look at that. That's some old school dust. I don't want to touch it, but I will. Oh, it's not even coming off dust, you know what I mean? It's sticky dust. Alright, but you can see the socket slightly exposed just over here. Along, if you can just move that dust. See what I mean? It's on an angle. And it's really interesting the way it's being done, because they just plop it down any way, shape or form, you know what I mean? Look at this dust around this fucking connector. We're going to have to get in there and clean it out, I think. We'll protect the socket. We'll keep the CPU in it. But there seems like there's 4 screws, which is spring loaded, perhaps. As long as it doesn't jump out on us. We'll go corner by corner, just in case. The pins in the socket will still be fragile, regardless. So you want to watch out. Either way, it's not an AMD socket. but and all CPU still LGA based, like the new school Alder Lake and Raptor Lakes and the new school AMD chips are. But that means the socket's quite fragile itself. Okay, we'll see if that should be able to give it a bit of a twist. I'll give it a little bit of a twist, and then up she comes. Ew, guys, look at that. Look at that. That's ratty. And then look at that. Now you can see the thermal paste application. Did I just release like a new breed of fucking something on this world? Hopefully not. We're going to give this a proper clean. So I'm going to stop this camera now. Come back after this stuff's a bit more cleaned out. Just one note in relation to, getting paste off an old CPU like that. Just some paper towel is good enough. If I've got some actual tough paper towel, right? As you can see, this one's been used a fair bit, and it will go to town on semi-dried stuff. See, before you need to use anything else. We're going to get the vacuum cleaner out here because I'm not going to ingest this shit. Now let's have a look at what we got here originally. E8400. So we'll get a better reading on that real quickly. So 3 gigahertz at writes. That's the base frequency with total 2 cores, 6 megabytes of L2 cache. Came out in Q1 of the 8th. So we'll definitely go with 45 nanometers, same price. We'll definitely go with the LGA 775Q8400 with the 4 cores, base frequency of 2.66 gigahertz on 4 cores. Hopefully that can get to a higher, closer area of like 3 gigahertz on some sort of non-true boost. But because like I said, those Q chips, the 82, 84, the 9000s, used to be able to boost them. I could get like 3.6 gigahertz out of decent chips on an all-day overclock on 4 cores, get me? And this, I don't think this motherboard and a BIOS combination will allow for that sort of flexibility. Okay, guys, I'm just essentially reflecting currently, giving it a bit of a spruce up here, just ever so slightly. I'm reflecting because I feel violated after like unlocking the dust more so like in this sector here. I only gave it a basic once over because I don't know, it smells like fungus and that can't be good, but there's no fungus, but you know what I mean? Like just like it's, but everything was operational before. So with that being said, it should be all good. CPU socket on the other hand, fans on the other hand cleaned out as well. I'm going to leave the RAM in how it is because that configuration was working before. Unconventional 6 gigabytes. We're going to unlock our Q8400. So let us break the seal. It's been a while. It's been from the days I used to use toilet tissue. There's more to label them and everything without having to look at it specifically. This should be clean. And we'll Q8400, see if you guys can see that there. If you can't, I apologize. You can believe have unlocked this in a while. I'm sure this hasn't been unlocked in over 10 or so years. Pull that out. The E-core chip, which is performance saving, and hopefully the 95 watts isn't too much. To the freshly, we can see the amount of silver which is working this chip as opposed to that one. So that's really interesting. But try not to wreck the pins here. Surprisingly, it looks like there is one pin that's slightly dent. It looks like there's damaged pins. And we've just opened this up without touching it. So that's interesting. Anyway, we're going to arrow. But this time around, we've got 2 indentations that we're looking at. And that's what we're working around. So I'm going to work to that. Be very careful with the drop in. There we go. Hopefully that top left corner isn't damaged. It was working before, So it should be fine. I'm just like powered it like that. That would be a first if that happened. So lock that in place. Give it a bit of a wiggle again. Then we're going to have to apply some thermal paste, obviously. 1 second, guys. I need to grab some first. Okay, so I feel like a drug dispensing fucking Fruit Loop doctor. Look at that. It looks like a bloody syringe. I hate these ones because they're so ridiculous. I get the shakes when I use these type of syringes to dispense all the time. I prefer the thicker boys. Here's a thick boy I got, which is the remainder. So there's a remainder and the remainder, which should be enough thermal paste. I don't know what this is. Something called thermal grizzly. Never heard of it. And this one, on the other hand, just some random numbers and or I might as well say Mitsubishi for all I fucking know. Let's start off with the one that I can physically see how much is left, and hopefully that's enough to get us started. And then whatever's left in that, hopefully it's not an empty vial of whatever that grizzly shit is. Hopefully it's not too grizzly. I can physically see there's something in this at least. There's only 4 cores that we're trying to keep. That's it. And we're just gonna give it a bit of a twist. So that's not even a P. So that's that. Completely dispensed. Hopefully there's about the same amount left of this thermal grizzly. Thank you, Roman. Oh my god, that is different. That's about a P. So you can see that the consistency of it is a little bit different. It's an interesting thing. I wonder if that's secure, but we got just enough. After a little bit of TLC in regards to popping it on. You can see that there, guys. You can see that. It's a little pee. Did you need a pee? Did you want a pee? You got a pee there. That grot I could not get off for the love of me. I want to I'm just worried about not around the thermal base, please. And give it a bit more of a wipe off. That goes around that way, I believe. That comes off that side there. Yes, it does. Without smudging it too much. I want to make sure it's in the hole. In the holes, we shall push down on it ever so slightly. 1, 2, 3. We'll do a nice even spiel on it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back to here again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is bottoming him out pretty much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll just make sure that it's a 1/4 twist to tightness. Watch, never over tighten because you don't want to warp the board, but it has to be as firm as can be physically gotten in relation to putting a cooler onto the motherboard. So you want to watch out to not warp the board. All right, that's pretty good. We can pretty much lift that whole socket area. And we've got thermal paste excess coming off the sides, which is great. Just the right amount, I think. So with that being said, we're going to apply the fans. I'll try to connect them up first. At least one of them. This side over here, definitely first connection. I'm still worried about the cooler, but it's pretty robust. There's one connection point. The other one is going to be fairly short. It's fairly short. They don't leave you with much extra copper wiring and whatnot. That's connected. Now let's slot these in. Watch out for the transistors and whatnot. Back into place. I didn't check fans whether they were rotating properly. And now back to popping the 4 screws on, which is just look like standard case screws. A bit more robust, like the big boy ones. If you've ever had them, use the big boy ones. You know what I mean, like the slightly thicker ones. Good for like your PSUs and shit. And just black in nature. So I'm curious as to whether this has been played with before. Because I expected them to be just silver screws then. Maybe someone got, well, someone obviously did because they pulled out the Wi-Fi module. So that's something I may be able to find a spare Wi-Fi module in an old laptop. Dell surprisingly that stopped working from around the same era. So that may work into one of these connection points there, but do that after the fact. I do an extract later on whether I manage to get it working or not during the video or not. But unfortunately the backside of this can't house the SSD per se, but we're going to try to get into the motherboard first and into the BIOS before we open up this packet and completely mangle it. But otherwise, I'm just going to like stick it onto here. It'll be okay. And then we'll still have the channel of air coming through it. Let us see whether she shall fire up. She's so terrific into the, at least into the BIOS at the very least. DVI no signal. We do have operation here. Okay, I'm going to turn it off. There we go. We got visuals, which is a good sign. Alert, failed to detect one or more drive during post. Strike the F1 key to continue, F2 to run the setup utility. Press F5 to run onboard diagnostics. F2 setup utility, please. F2, please. So here we go, guys. You can see bottom corner over there. We've got activation happening, and we've got the Dell. So janky aside or not, Thermal Grizzly seems to have done its bit. I've got the camera right in the array system. I realized the BIOS version, I've got A18, not A19 like the gentleman had before. Memory installed 6 gigabytes at speed, very slow, otherwise known as. We've got a 2121 in DIMM 1, 3, 2, and 4. An Intel Core TM2 Quad CPU Q8400 at 2.66 gigahertz. Processor speed 2.66 gigahertz. Processor bus 13333. 4 megabytes of L2 cache. I should be showing you guys this, but in fact, I'm gonna stuff it up if I do. But yeah, you guys can see it's there. Like you guys trust me. I'll show you guys a better picture later on. I won't, because remember, this was for me. It wasn't for you guys. So if you're seeing it, you're not privileged. You're just lucky that I bothered to get it out there for you all. Just something I'm doing in my spare time. G'day guys, so it's been a interesting, why is everything so slow? Do you guys see that? That's not like 60 frames, yeah? Look at that, at the Techness Corner, I am causing some ruckus and then expelling that negative energy, but we had a bit of fun. I've got the results up, so it's worse than first thought. The gentleman is receiving the Dell Optiplex 960. The Dell Optiplex 960. He's going to end up getting that. I'm going to chuck a Wi-Fi module into it, a USB one that does 150 megabits a second. It's got an upgraded CPU to it, like I mentioned and showed you guys earlier. Sorry about the haphazard video. I thought I at least documented, obviously. But it's in relation to the eMachine back there. I'm sussing it out now. I thought I'd have at least 2 cores at 2.8 gigahertz on the AMD Athlon, but it's like 1 core specific, 1 core at 2 gigahertz. It's running DDR3 memory at 1333, so it's fairly strong with 4 gigs. It should be zippy enough, but that frequency based on that 1, it's just pegging that core continuously. And it's stagnating everywhere else, even with the SSD in it currently. So I'm going to change to the work scene, because we just did. So essentially, one, we can't do 1920 by 1080. The problem is it's just got VGA out in relation to that machine. We can do something higher than that, but the eMachine monitor I've got back there that you guys can see bottom left corner is exactly what the gentleman has as well. I happen to have one of these lying about, so I'm getting to keep this machine in return for giving him what he doesn't fully grasp is the better machine, even though I've told him that without trying to sell it to him too much, so he thinks I'm trying to con him or anything like that, you know what I mean? So I'm doing him a favor. He's getting a Christmas gift. He's just paying me for the cost of the SSD, because I had to open up an SSD packet, and I gave it to him obviously at base cost and whatnot. It's got Windows. If we can put it back onto this machine, it should be Windows 10 Pro should be activated for him. It's got 6 gigabytes of DDR3. But in relation to this right now, Crystal Disk Mark scores. So we saw the scores that we got before. They're slightly slower on the render 4Ks, slightly less. We're hitting 20 on the bottom side and like 75 on the right. Sequential read and writes are roughly the same. So nothing there in relation to improvement. I'm just saying if it would be zippy enough in this machine just with the SSD and whatnot. But yeah, I'm not happy with this in relation to just general browsing in this day and age. at the bare minimum, I'm not happy with the Dell Optiplex, frankly. So the gentleman's getting an upgrade, definitely substantial, from 1 core to 4, and from 2 gigahertz to 2.66 gigahertz on all cores. Best I can do with the Dell BIOS, otherwise I'd pull it up to 3.6 with adequate cooling. But in the meantime, what we're going to do as well, I'm going to open up Cupid HW monitor. We'll see how this goes in relation to opening up on this machine. So actually we'll move it to a spot that you guys can see a little better. Hopefully you guys can see there. So CPU champs 32, 35. I'm going to put it under Cinebench R15 load. So AMD Athlon 2170. Yeah, I'm not even going to bother testing other stuff and chucking in chipset drivers and that. But I'm curious whether we'll just open up CPU Z real quickly. MSI version, like I mentioned earlier, so forgive. This gentleman's under the understanding he's got a graphics card in this machine. Yeah, it's not really the case. But we're going to see whether it's got better graphical power, even though it can't do 1080 by 1920 effectively. So eMachine EL1358 making an appearance. These machines are approximately 10 and a half, 11 years of age now. The Dell Optiplex is actually about 12 or 13, but it's a superior computer to the eMachine with the upgrade of a chip that's approximately 11 and a half, 12 years of age anyway, but much more solid construction that would have been from yester-year in relation to that to the eMachine, at least this version of the eMachine. So the eMachines were bought out by Acer, from my understanding, and that sticker on the side of it that you guys can't see on the opposing side is typical of what Acer would slap on the side of their machines as well. I think that's from memory what jarred my memory in relation to an old video on the topic itself. Memory, we can see it's got 4 gigabytes, DC mode, dual channels. So 6 gigabytes of DDR2, lower latencies though. Graphics wise, we've got a Microsoft Basic Display Adapter, board manufacturer Acer, they're just as specified. We've got an NVIDIA board essentially, so that's an interesting little thing. We can bench it here, but we're not going to bench it here. What we're going to do is open up Cinebench R15, and then we're going to check YouTube and the snappiness of one of our favorite presenters, which is Lone Wolf something, Sniper Wolf, whatever her name is. So I apologize, I'm not going to be able to get a better viewing angle on this. What we'll do is we'll view clear min-max that, and we're going to run the CPU test here. 1 core, 1 thread, guys, AMD Athlon 170U processor on Windows 10 Pro with 4 gigabytes of DDR3, the lower end spec variety. Let's go, people. Score to beat is 244. It's performing the render tests and preparing the project, and here we go. All right. Can I multitask right now? We're going to fast forward through this. 244 is the score to beat. We can see it down here. It's in relation to the 4-core, 4-threaded, 266 gigahertz Intel Core 2 quad CPU Q8400 is what you can't see. That beat out an i5 3rd gen and is halfway to an i7 3rd gen. And obviously, I can already see the performance is lackluster. But I'm going to still let it run through. We'll fast forward and then we'll check YouTube and the zippiness of a couple of applications regarding Chrome and just moving it around. And hopefully it doesn't move like my hands are, because there's something going on with the camera here as well in relation to my frames there as well. But anyway, back into Zippy, and enjoy the DCMA approved music as we go maybe 300, 400% forward in time. Windows 7, in the gentleman's defense that he was utilizing before this, was a lot less eventful in relation to, I guess, probably events itself and background shit running and having to operate. But Windows 10, and we got 10 Pro here, but it's not overly, it's a stripped down version. Background apps, everything's disabled. As minimal impact on the system as I can so that the RAM could be utilized if it was going in the 4 gig. But it's not gonna, guys. I'm not doing that to him. I got nothing, but this ain't gonna help me in any way, shape, or form. So I might as well go to a gentleman that will get some use out of it anyway, so it doesn't go to waste as one of my extra possessions, because it's mine. No one can have it. And if no one's gonna have it, then or I can't have it, it's going in the bin and it's going to be broken up, and I'm going to yell at those people, you know what I mean? Like, who try to take it and shit, you know? And or if someone wants it, I'm going to ask them how much they got and how much they're willing to pay for it, and work it out and see the highest price on eBay and go, I can get they're selling those eMachines for $80, and I've got the monitor, so I guess that's like $120, yeah, guys. Although this then would be about $120, but then you upgrade the chip, you put in SSD, put in the wireless dongle, we're talking $150 easily, yeah, true that. So let's go, yeah. And then plus the labor in relation to this and setting him up, we'll discount him there, but we've got to charge him for the increase in the parts, the update on the transactional rate of the change in exchange, so 40 there, the part 40, we're only charging 20 for labor, so 80, 100, and for the dongle 110. We'll round it up to about 119, 120. What do you reckon, guys? Fuck that, man. You know what I mean? It's not going to help me in any way. Anyway, if you guys got here, I apologize for the slow-ass nature of Cinnabon R15 today. It's not the usual, but it's a needed. And that's why I like using Cinnabon R15. It gets a good depiction in relation to everything I do. I do use the heavier shit, guys. Trust me, I do use that heavier shit sometimes if need be. But, if I got those aches and pains, but that helps, But in all seriousness, welcome to the Techness Corner. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Seb Luka. And we're going to fast forward through the rest of this again. I'm going to zip it or just pretend I'm not here in the background, all right? And we'll get back to this, okay? And I'll just zip through. Maybe I won't scratch my ass too many times and sniff it. All right, let's go. Second last line in the home stretch, this AMD Athlon i70U CPU is on its way home. As we go around the corner, we go into the final bend and we look at ourselves at the Caulfield Stakes, and oh my god, he's nosing in front. He's got the last few boxes to render through in Cinnabon R15, and it's going to give us the ability to compare the scores in relation to the upgrade the gentleman's getting in relation to the Dell Optiplex 960. And here we go, 3, 2, 1. And what is the score, people? One core, one thread at 2.01 gigahertz, overclocked at the 0.1 gigahertz higher in relation to what it is It got the lowest score I've ever seen on Cinebench R15 at 45. So it had to be 244. So it's literally 199 below. And that doesn't equate to all the zippiness that he gets also, yo. So now we know. But we're not finished yet. We're still going to do a couple other tests. I just want to really smash it and see how many frames we get on the OpenGL run. So we're going to do that right now as well. And we'll see if it runs it. Your GFX card does not support the required feature for this test. Okay. So we'll close that. Save. Would you like to save benchmark score? Yes, please. And what we shall do is open Heaven. And Heaven, on the other hand, we're not going to do OpenGL this time. We're going to try DirectX 9. Okay. It's low quality. Go low quality. And 1280 by 720. Last time on the Dell, we tried at 1980 by 1020. 1920 by 1080, beg your pardon. So this will be easier on this, so it's got a fighting chance. We didn't run the benchmark on the Dell. It hasn't got a dedicated GPU as well. Low profile one would help open things up as well. But in relation to this, if it manages to load, did we just blue screen or black screen or something? If it manages to load the program, and or what we saw with the Dell best case scenario is it running at 3 or 4 frames. So it seems like we're not going to get any action here, guys. So I'll save it from further embarrassment. Okay, so we got a load in relation to not being able to do certain things. That's more in relation to a sound card. Okay, guys. One more thing we'll check. Opening up Chromium. And it's got a custom picture it should be opening up. There it is. That's how long it takes to load. Okay. I'm going to grab it. It's a bit jagged. It's not the frames, guys. Let's move it. All right. We're going to try YouTube. And we're waiting for it to load. It will be pegging the CPU this whole time. I shit you not, it will be pegging that CPU. And we're going to go with SSS Sniper Wolf. Genius inventions and gadgets you've never seen before. So let's go. We will try full screen. This is the best resolution we can get. We're going to have to wait for the adverts as well. And as you can see, this is, yeah, that's not the internet currently. We're on a LAN connection. Yeah, it's had enough. I don't know how this was running Windows 7, let alone 8 gigabytes of RAM might give it a fighting chance, but trust me, it's not the RAM. If we go to Task Manager here, experiencing interruptions. If we go to Task Manager is waiting to come up. We're going to see this CPU pegged here pretty much in performance. 100% CPU utilization. See, it's just pegged. It's just being pegged. 53%. It's got a little bit of breathing space now. Performance, we'll have a look. Yeah, look at that. 2 gigahertz. You can't handle it whatsoever. Uptime will be in for 40 minutes. So I'll put this CPU out of its misery. We'll skip the ad. We'll just see how high we can get in relation to resolution wise. It's on HD now currently. Yeah, guys, it just can't do it. I mean, I can run the active wallpapers in relation to stuff. Nah. Oakley dokley. So as you can see, this NVIDIA inspired AMD monstrosity of an... I've already had a mental blank. I'm trying to rip it out of my memory in relation to utilization now. It's unfair for this gentleman to be using this. If he seriously was, he's a soldier and he's got a lot of patience. He's going to enjoy. I can't see him not enjoying it. If I for some reason, if he's like one of those people that comes back and goes, I'll be like, beg your pardon? I'll literally go insane because, yeah, like I would probably have made this guy's day without sugarcoating it, and he won't notice it until he notices it. He's new to experiencing Windows 10 as well. So because of that, I'm going to give him a 10, 15 minute, 20 minute introduction into Windows 10. When he comes tomorrow to pick up the Dell Optiplex, which is in front of me here, we're going to take the SSD out of the E center / I can't make use of this system whatsoever now, except for maybe a retro gaming machine, and even then we still need a dedicated card. I've got some dedicated cards, but they're not going to fit in there, and they're not low profile. So honestly, bugger it. Well, I guess we'll put it up on eBay for 80 bucks and see if anyone wants to steal, because it's less than every other listing on eBay. They're about 84 medium price, guys. So let's go. Sorry about the unconventional post today. I've got the PS2 keyboard active, so that's my forgiveness in relation to being a bit quirky. And get a quirky keyboard. If you're interested in that, check out some of our educational videos at the Techness Corner as well, if you're new to PCs and whatnot. Otherwise, till next time, guys, thanks for joining us at the Techness Corner. Hit that like and subscribe button on the way out, and peace out.